Your body knew before you did. Not this morning. Not when you woke up and checked your phone. Before that. Somewhere in the night, while you were still technically asleep, something shifted. A tightening in the chest. A dream that did not quite resolve. A feeling when you opened your eyes that today was not an ordinary day, even before you had any reason to believe that. I want to talk to you about what is happening tonight. Not as superstition, not as the kind of vague cosmic language that says everything and nothing at the same time. As something that is astronomically, measurably, specifically real. Tonight, at 8 degrees and 55 minutes of Pisces, Mars meets the north node of the moon. This conjunction becomes exact in the early evening hours. For roughly 30 minutes, these two forces occupy the same precise point in the sky. And then the moment passes, and the sky begins rearranging itself again. But the effects of this meeting do not pass with it. They move forward with you. They are already moving. Let me tell you what this actually means. The north node of the moon is not a planet. It is a point, a mathematical location where the path of the moon crosses the ecliptic as it moves northward. Ancient astronomers, long before they had the instruments to measure much of what we take for granted, understood this point as something significant. They called it the head of the dragon in Vedic tradition. In Hellenistic astrology, it was called the ascending node, the point of increase, the place where eclipses are born, the place where fate and the ordinary moment intersect. What the ancients understood intuitively and what centuries of astrological observation have continued to confirm is that the north node represents the direction of growth. Not where you have been, not where you are comfortable, where you are going. Where the current of your life is pulling you, even when you resist it, even when you pretend you cannot feel it, even when you have convinced yourself you are perfectly happy standing still. And tonight, Mars arrives at that exact point. Mars is the planet of action, of drive, of the force that moves a body from stillness into motion. It is the part of you that knows, even when the mind offers 100 reasons to wait, that something must be done. Mars does not negotiate. Mars does not make polite suggestions. Mars arrives. Mars insists. When Mars meets the north node, the momentum of your destiny and the force of your drive occupy the same point in the sky simultaneously. For a few hours tonight, those two things are not separate. They are one. Your procrastination has an expiration date, and tonight is it. I want to tell you about Friday the 13th, because I know you are thinking about it, and I want to offer you something that is more interesting than either the superstition or the dismissal of it. The fear of Friday the 13th has a name, paraskevidikatriophobia, one of the most widespread date-based fears in Western culture. But very few people who hold this fear know where it came from. The origin is more layered than the folklore suggests. The number 13 was not always unlucky. In many ancient traditions, it was sacred. There are 13 lunar cycles in a solar year. The moon, which governs the tides and the emotions and the rhythms of the female body, completes 13 full cycles while the earth travels once around the sun. For cultures that tracked time by the moon rather than the sun, 13 was not ominous. It was simply accurate. The transition from lunar to solar calendar systems happened slowly across centuries as agricultural civilizations grew larger and required more standardized ways of organizing collective time. The 12-month solar calendar that most of the world now uses is a tool of systematization. And in that process, the 13th unit, the one that did not fit neatly into the new system, became something to be managed, something slightly outside the order. and Friday comes from Frigg or Freya, depending on the Norse tradition, the goddess of love, of fate, of weaving destiny. The planet Venus rules Friday. In pre-Christian Northern European mythology, she was not a passive symbol of romance. She was power. She was sovereignty. The convergence of Friday and the 13th in Western superstition is partly the story of two symbols that once held power in older meaning systems, gradually reframed as dangerous as those systems changed. What I find remarkable is this. Tonight, on Friday the 13th, Mars meets the North Node of Destiny in Pisces, and Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, which has just turned direct, and the Moon rules the North Node's timing, and the Moon rules the number 13, and Friday belongs to Venus, which is currently in Aries conjunct Saturn. The ancient symbols are speaking in alignment tonight, not as warning, as activation. Now let me tell you about Pisces, because the sign matters as much as the event. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, the 12th house, the place where the individual cycle completes before the next one begins. In traditional astrology, Pisces is associated with dissolution, with the unconscious, with the space between one form of existence and another. It is the ocean that precedes the shore. It is the dream state. It is the place where the soul goes when it needs to remember what it came here to do. Mars in Pisces does not operate the way Mars operates in Aries or Scorpio or Capricorn. In those signs, Mars is direct. It knows the target and it moves toward it. Mars in Pisces moves the way water moves, not in straight lines, around obstacles, through the path of least resistance, which is not the same as the path of least significance. Water finds the lowest point, not because it is weak, but because it is always following gravity, always following what is most true about the landscape. Mars in Pisces acts from feeling rather than logic. It acts from resonance rather than strategy. And when Mars in Pisces meets the North Node, the action that is being catalyzed is not the kind that comes with a business plan and a 5-year timeline. It is the kind that comes when you have finally stopped talking yourself out of something. The kind that happens when the knowing in your body outweighs the objections of your mind. You have been talking yourself out of something. I do not know what it is. I cannot know. But I know this is true for you because it is true for nearly every person who finds themselves at a moment of genuine cosmic activation. The mind is a remarkable organ. It has learned over a lifetime of evidence that the things you want are sometimes not available to you, and it has developed a sophisticated system for managing that disappointment in advance. It calls this system being realistic. Sometimes it is right, but sometimes it is managing a disappointment that has not happened yet. It is protecting you from a rejection that exists only as a possibility by convincing you not to try. And the cost of this protection is the slow, quiet dimming of the impulse that wanted something in the first place. What is it that you have stopped wanting because wanting it became too painful? What did you used to imagine for yourself that you have slowly, quietly reclassified as unrealistic? Mars meeting the North Node in Pisces tonight is not going to answer those questions for you, but it is going to make them louder. It is going to make the usual noise of distraction slightly less effective than it normally is. And in that small window of relative quiet, you might find that you can actually hear the thing you have been avoiding hearing, not with your mind, with your chest. That is where this kind of knowing lives. There is something I want to tell you about the history of this particular planetary combination, because Mars has met the North Node before, and the record of what happened during those meetings is illuminating. Mars conjuncts the North Node approximately every 2 years. The sign changes each time, and the sign shapes the nature of the activation. When this meeting happened in fixed signs, in Taurus or Scorpio or Leo or Aquarius, the events that coincided tended to be stubborn, entrenched, about power and resources and territory. When it happened in cardinal signs, in Aries or Cancer or Libra or Capricorn, the energy was initiatory, starting wars, starting movements, starting new chapters of collective history. In mutable signs, in Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces, the conjunction tends toward something less obvious, but perhaps more profound. In mutable signs, Mars North Node conjunctions tend to coincide with turning points in understanding, with the moments where a collective story that had been told one way is suddenly told differently, where a prevailing narrative reaches its limit, where the fog lifts not to reveal a battlefield, but to reveal that the battlefield was always somewhere else. Pisces is the most mutable of the mutable signs, and the North Node in Pisces is asking the collective and asking you individually to evolve toward something that cannot be achieved through force, something that requires receptivity, spiritual intelligence, the willingness to be moved by what is actually happening rather than what you have decided should be happening. The action Mars is catalyzing tonight in Pisces is not violent. It is honest. And sometimes, honesty requires more courage than any other kind of action. I want to speak to what you might be feeling in your body right now, because this is where the real information lives tonight. There are specific physical sensations that tend to accompany Mars North Node transits, not as mystical phenomena, but as the body's response to a genuine shift in its relationship with motivation and direction. Some people describe a warmth in the sternum, a kind of pressure that is not quite pain, not quite excitement, but something between them. It is the sensation of being at the edge of a decision without yet knowing what the decision is. Some people describe an unusual restlessness in the legs, the impulse to walk, to move, to do something with the body that the mind cannot yet name. Mars governs the legs and the muscles and the physical drive to be in motion. When Mars is activated strongly, the body often registers it as movement before the mind registers it as intention. Some people describe a heightened sensitivity to sound and light, a quality of aliveness that feels almost too much. This is the nervous system responding to an increased signal in the atmosphere. You are not imagining it. And some people describe the specific sensation of something old releasing, a tension they have been holding for so long it had become invisible. The way you only noticed you were holding your breath when you finally exhale. If you are feeling any of these things tonight, you are not malfunctioning. You are receiving. Now I want to talk about Mercury, because Mercury is still retrograde in Pisces, and it is orbiting very close to the North Node right now. It will station direct on March 20th, exactly conjunct the North Node, which means that for the next week, we exist in the specific atmosphere of the destination is clear, the direction is clear, but the exact language of how to get there has not been fully revealed yet. This is important to sit with rather than fight. The tendency when Mars activates the North Node is to want to act immediately, to convert the feeling of momentum into concrete movement as fast as possible. And that impulse is real, and it comes from something genuine. But Mercury retrograde in Pisces is asking for a specific kind of patience that is not the same as inaction. The difference between inaction and receptive waiting is this: inaction is choosing not to engage. Receptive waiting is staying fully present with what is moving while allowing the full picture to emerge before you commit to a particular form. Think of it this way: you are in the ocean. Mars North Node is the current. Mercury retrograde is the fog. The current is real. It is moving you in a real direction. The fog does not negate the current. It simply means that you navigate by feeling the pull of the water rather than by seeing where you are going. Trust the pull, even if you cannot see the shore. There is one more layer to tonight that I want to name. Venus is conjunct Saturn in Aries. It has been all week. And this combination in Aries, the sign of the self and the beginning, is asking a very specific question. What do you believe you deserve? Not what you have been told you deserve, not what you have earned in the eyes of others. What does the deepest part of you believe is available to you? What does it believe is meant for you? And what, quietly, without drama, has it decided is not for you? Has placed in the category of things that happen to other people, things you appreciate from the outside, things you learn to stop needing. Venus conjunct Saturn can feel heavy. It can feel like restriction, like the universe is saying not yet, or not this, or not you. But Saturn in conjunction with Venus is also the energy of taking love seriously, of deciding that the way you have been relating to your own worth is no longer sufficient, of building something more durable than convenience, of choosing what is true over what is comfortable. And Mars hitting the North Node tonight underneath all of this is saying, the direction forward is real. You can feel it. The question is not whether the path exists. The question is whether you will allow yourself to walk it. You have been here before, not in this exact moment, but in this exact feeling. The feeling of standing at the edge of something larger than your current story about yourself. The feeling that the next version of your life is not far away, not impossible, not reserved for someone more qualified or more ready or more deserving. It is simply waiting for you to stop arguing against it. Friday the 13th has carried the weight of superstition for centuries, but the real reason this date makes people feel something is not because it is cursed. It is because the human nervous system is exquisitely sensitive to the suggestion that the ordinary rules might not apply today, that something unusual might be possible, that the familiar constraints might be momentarily loosened. And sometimes that suggestion is accurate. Tonight, it is accurate. The North Node at 8 degrees Pisces is the point where your evolution is focused right now. Mars arriving there tonight is not a coincidence. It is a convergence. The planet of action meeting the point of destiny in the sign of the soul. Your body already registered this. That is why today has felt different. That is why the morning was strange in some way you could not name. That is why you are here, reading this, listening to this, at this exact moment. The universe does not waste arrivals. You are not here by accident. You are here because something in you knew there was a message in the sky tonight that was relevant to where you are. Not where you were 6 months ago, not where you will be in a year. Where you are right now, in the specific, unrepeatable texture of this version of your life. Mars and the North Node have 30 minutes of exact conjunction tonight, but the window of their influence spans days on either side. You are inside it now. You have been inside it for the last several days, which is part of why this week has felt like it carried more weight than usual. Like decisions were quietly maturing inside you without your active participation. They were. The decision that has been growing inside you for weeks or months, the one you have been feeding with both attention and avoidance in equal measure, has reached something tonight. Not an answer necessarily, not a plan, but a kind of internal clarity about what is true, about what matters, about what you can no longer pretend to be indifferent to. That clarity is the gift of Mars conjunct the North Node in Pisces on Friday the 13th, 2026. Take it, not as a prescription, not as a directive, simply as information about yourself that you have been circling for a long time, and that tonight the sky has made available to you more directly than usual. The fog is not permanent. Mercury stations direct on March 20th. Jupiter is already moving forward in Cancer. All planets will be direct by the end of this month. The clarity that feels just out of reach tonight will become more accessible over the coming weeks. But tonight has its own particular gift. The gift of feeling the direction before you can name it. The gift of knowing in the body before the mind has finished its deliberation. Your body already knew this was coming. Now, the rest of you is catching up. Welcome to Vibration of Space. I am glad you found your way here tonight.